Hello there and welcome to another edition to Strategies, Tactics, and Techniques. Today's video tutorial is going to cover how to strike effectively or more efficiently from the ground position using your rear cross punches, and maybe we'll get in time to go into other punches. But today we're going to cover the rear cross punches and lead cross punches. In other words, your horizontal punches, right? Now these punches are incredibly important because of several reasons. A, they create a lot of power because of rotation and torque, and B, they allow you to hit on different angles in here, different vectors. So they're an important strike to master in here if you're going to be effective or more effective in your MMA training. Now, it's my opinion that just from watching a lot of MMA bouts, that a lot of striking is not effective when it comes to being on the ground. In other words, anytime they're in some kind of a grappling position of some kind in here, what I usually see is either no striking whatsoever when they could deliver one powerful strike to either into the midsection here or to the face, or I don't see any striking at all when they could. Otherwise, they're trying to grapple too much in here, so I'll see something like this in here where we're entangled in here like this, right? We're just going to talk about standing up in here because basically on the ground it's almost the same thing. As I see, a lot of them trying to get in here and pummel in and trying to get into the throws and the takedowns in here. When I'm looking at this thing going, you could just deliver one hellacious blow into his body in here like this, and then go for your takedown or whatever you're going to do if it happens to be there. So, in other words, ground striking is something that is really neglected when it comes to MMA fighting. Most of the training on the ground is all based on submissions, jiu-jitsu and wrestling, about trying to get into a control position to find a submission, and very little ground and pound. The most ground and pound I see is when people are in a mount position trying to hit in here like this, and a lot of times it's not very effective in my opinion because it takes them 15, 20 strikes to even cut an eye open or lacerate or something like this, and then what happens is that the bout ends and the round ends and the guy gets up and walks away no problem, and the fight should have been over in about 3 or 4 punches. So today we're going to work on how to strike from the ground. Now, I'm not going to get into this video today. It would take way too long. What happens when a person's striking back and how do you strike back from there. That's more of ground defense and how to counter back, counter grappling, or what happens when a guy's holding you like so, how you can deliver your techniques from there. We're not going to get into that today. That takes way too much time. We'll do that in another video. This is basically working different angles and how to take your horizontal linear punches, your cross punches, and apply those in different angles, okay? So there's going to be questions and comments about what happens when he's mounting you or if there's more resistance, and we'll talk about those a little bit briefly as we go on. That certainly changes the dynamic of things, but the first step, I would say the first progression here is actually understand and learn that you actually can transfer a good amount of force and cause damage from the ground, and not just neglect that. Okay, so you can throw. You have hooks, you have jabs, you have crosses, you have elbows, you have uppercuts, you have hammer fists. You have basically all kinds of different ways to trap and control somebody in here to pin their limbs and strike them. We'll get into those things much later, but those are things you obviously need in your arsenal as well. You cannot just strike only. You cannot just grapple only. You have to learn how to figure out a method of attack or a plan of attack, or how you're going to integrate those different aspects of your training into your ground fighting in general. Okay, so let's begin here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start, with my right hand in here. So I'm going to get down in here like so. Now the first thing here, it's important to before I deliver the technique in here, it's important to understand of kind of where your weight transfer comes through. So since you're pinned on your back. And again, we're gonna assume that the person is all on top of you and holding you down. So that's going to minimize how much you can transfer your weight. But I said we're not going to get into that right now. So you can see the whole view in here. It's important that your weight transfer has to come. It has to come from your T-spine in here like this. It's got to come from your drive leg, and there's some degree of coming from your hips. Now, because you're on your back and you can't drive or locomote as much, In other words, I can't push off the ground as easily, particularly when someone's holding me down. Less weight transfer is going to be in your hips, and more of it is going to be in your T-spine here, rotating from here. So you got to have good rotational or flexibility in here to do this. You cannot just be flat on your back punching from here. Okay, you have to be able to incline and arc or rotate in the technique all at once. Okay, with all your techniques, you cannot just sit back and here on your back and flat like this. Okay, so that's step number one. Step number two is you got to make sure that you're grounded in the earth in here like this. So if you take your basic, hip bridging in here, can you bridge, and push off the earth in here at the same time? So all those things got to happen all at once. Okay, now depending upon the distance of what's happening in here, where this is, so if he's really far away, all right, and I can't reach this thing in here, you're going to have to bridge and more in here like that. Okay, but you're only going to be able to hit to the length of your arm. So this is only really going to be done in application when your opponent is in range to hit you. So he's right at the end of your kill zone, which is basically touching distance from you and your opponent. Okay. Now if he's in halfway closer in here, okay, then I don't have to go as far in here like this. Okay. So, but you still want to be able to rotate, your technique in here as much as possible. Okay. So rotation is the body directional force that you're going to apply along with inclination. Okay. Now, with that being said, you want to put yourself in a position where you feel coiled and loaded. Now, what that means is you want to feel like you can easily, explode off in here like this. Okay, like I'd be able to bench press somebody off in here. You don't want to have your legs out here like so, like this. Even if you only have one leg in here, right? Because some people are going to ask, well, what happens when he's between you? Like, what happens if he's, in your guard? How do you transfer the weight from here? Well, certainly you can't use your legs as much to push off the ground. But what I can do is I still can torque from up here in my T-spine, and that's where your power is going to have to be generated from in here like that. If I got one leg on the ground in here, right, obviously, and maybe my shin or knee is up in his throat or his stomach in here, right, then I'm going to push, in here. So basically, a one-legged bridge like that. But the bottom line is you got to be able to bridge your hips into the target in order to transfer your weight. Okay? All right, so the next thing here is punches. Now, when you throw your horizontal punches, all right, you need to be able to throw the technique in such a way to where you're following, a strong power line in here. And I've explained this in the other videos talking about the line of force that I did. If you haven't checked those out, check it out. There's two videos recently I did about the line of force. Is the specific functional trajectory for your technique. All right. So in order for your power to happen in here, let's go ahead and put a pad up in here. Is the punches have to come off my shoulders in here like this. Okay. The energy is transferring this way. Doesn't matter where I am, if I was like this, it doesn't matter where I am on the target, my power has to come off my shoulder and come from my elbow and then rotate to the target in here. It doesn't really matter where I am in here like this, if I'm punching up in here. Okay, it cannot, all right, let's go more over here. It cannot come from the center line, okay? You cannot throw a punch from the center of your body like this, okay? You cannot hammer and expect to have any effect. You cannot just raise your arm up and swat in here because there's no skeletal alignment behind the technique. If I just reach up and swat, there's nothing behind it. Okay, I have to have a driving, kind of pushing, kind of crushing energy. So the simple way to do this in here would be to start like if you're going to bench press dumbbells and basically put your forearm on the ground in here and then take your fist and line it up with the target in here. So as the pad is in here like this, all I'm going to do is just going to draw a straight line to the target here. Just if I'm sitting flat on my back. Boom, like this. Okay, that is the line of force for the strike because the forearm is directly in line with the wrist and then centered behind the knuckles in here like this. And the elbow is all there with it. Okay? Now if he changes the angle a little bit, let's say that he goes more down by my knees, the line of force is going to change. Now the line of force is going this way. Okay, so this is like a decline bench press. Okay, this is more like a flat bench press. This is more like an incline bench press. The line of force is this way in here. if the pad was more down here and I was hitting him in the body, line of force would be this way in here like this, right? Pow. Okay? Let's say he took the other pad and put it up here. The line of force would be going up in this direction here. My chest muscles have to go in the direction of the punch in here like this. Okay? So that's a major important principle that has to be applied with any type of strike. Now remember, because you're on the ground, you cannot locomote your body as easily. You can't standing up. Otherwise, you can't move it from point A to point B as easily. So you have to make sure that all your biggest pushing muscles are involved in the technique. Okay? And very important too when someone's actually holding on to you, because now they're using opposing resistance, which doesn't allow you to accelerate as fast. All right. So to go ahead and work this in your arsenal now, you're just going to take a focus pad here and you're just going to put it into a trajectory, or put it in the trajectory you want it in here, and get your body in the right spot. Now from there, I'm going to bring my chin up in here like this. I want my head flat on the mat in here, both for defensive reasons. If I get struck in the head, there's nowhere for my energy to go right into the ground. And I want to make sure that I can protect my throat and bring my arms up into my face to protect myself. So when you're practicing the techniques at first, you can start with no defense. You can start from here and practice just throwing from here like this. Okay? So I'm just going to bridge my hips up and rotate in here. See how my back comes off the ground in here like that? Okay? That means I got maximum rotation coming around in here. So you can start just by no defense, just practice getting this trajectory in here. Okay? Start from there. Right? Then when you feel like you kind of got it, then you can kind of start bringing yourself more into a realistic kind of protected position. So from like a shield or something, or covering up in this shell, what I can do is kind of get my vision on the target here, load my legs, then I'm going to drop this arm in this position, and deliver the technique and come back. Okay, so I want to kind of coil, load, and then drop my arm down. And right when I drop my arm down, I'm going to relax my body and explode. Okay, I can come down even more and get this more in a different angle. So here, feet on the ground, I'm going to bridge. I'm going to rotate my hips, rotate my T-spine, and my drive out this leg in here and here. Okay, I can move my arms around like this, like I'm getting hit in here, but I'm going to coil and load it and come back. Okay, and come back. All right, let's try a different angle in here. So I'm going to flip over this way. Show you from the left arm. So I want you to come over, there. Okay, so yeah, that's fine. So from here, I'm going to hit more down this direction. The same principles. Just drop this into a position so you can see that. Get this elbow out and come and deliver. Here. And I'm going to slit off. Let's try it again. Drop. Okay. All right. So those are some different angles. All right. Now let's change the angle some more. Let's say that he's above me more. So this would be more like your incline bench press. So like a north-south position. So we're going to angle the pad. Now make sure when you get the pad here, make sure you can reach it pretty easily. Don't put this in such a direction where I'm like, you know, let's say he's way up here, I can't reach it. Well, I should be doing it. I should be doing this technique anyway. I mean, if it just comes out of nowhere like that, and I kind of miss him in here. Well, what I should be doing is getting my feet, I should be turning actually, getting my feet in position to, to grapple and kick him off. But that's beyond the scope of this tape. So put the pad in a position where you can hit in here. All right, so from here, working this angle, so I'm kind of hitting up and kind of up behind me in here, from here, here. All right, now, what if I was more this way in here? I come across, I have to really come across my body, deliver it this way. Here. Like so. Okay? So those are just some couple different angles you can hit with your cross punches. Now, some people are gonna, let's go back to this side. Some people are gonna say, well, what happens when he mounts you? Okay, that's gonna change how much weight you can put in. So let's go ahead and get into a mount position. And you certainly you need to do this from here. So once you can do those basic positions, or basic without him mounting you, all right, then from here, the same basic idea. So I'll angle the pad, find that line of force,
Right, now I can't bridge as much, but I definitely can still hit with a lot of power in here. So I can get in close, you know, when he's trying to hit me, right here. Like that. Okay, let's go ahead and go into the guard position. So now I can't use my legs to drive at all. With the mount, I still could kind of drive a little bit with my hips. I just can't arc them into the target as much because I got his weight on me. But if we were in the guard, the same basic principles in here, right? So from here, I'll hold. Like so. Then he falls into me. Okay? If I got one leg in here, let's go to that one. The same basic idea. I can use him to kind of push and pull. I can load for a power shot. Boom. Or I can just be a quick shot in here. Or it can be repetitive hits. Like that. Okay, so those are some other variations. You got a guy when he's got his weight on you. Right? Some of the other questions are probably going to come up. Again, I said I'll answer those things later on in a different video. Is what happens, you know, when he's actually trying to go for a submission or a lock. Well, the answer is not to be there in the first place. You're going to have to use other techniques like feeling, you know, where he's trying to hold on to you so you can escape and, you know, pull your hand out of there, your limb, your leg, whatever it is to deliver a technique off. Obviously, not to get there in the first place. Okay, but if you're proactive and you're striking and grappling, it's going to be much harder for a guy to hold on to you. The problem is that when people grapple, they grapple back. Their defenses to grappling are to use grappling defenses back. So if I try to control him, he's going to use traditional counter grappling techniques, usually submission based, to try to fight back. When he should be trying to use striking as well as everything else, not just grappling counterattacks themselves. Okay? And vice versa. If you're trying to take a person into a grappling scenario in here, you should not be just disregarding your striking just to try to get a choke or get a lock or get an arm triangle or whatever you're trying, or a Darce choke or whatever you're trying to do. You should be using whatever is needed at that moment. Be in the moment in order to figure out what you need to end the fight. Remember, the goal is to end the fight. The goal is not to try to get into a move. Too many MMA fighters and their coaches are move-oriented thinkers. They want to see a takedown. They want to see that high round kick. They want to see that sweep. Well, that's all great. If it's there, it's there. But if it's not, they're stuck because the way that they train is not doesn't always. The way they train for those methodical positions and stuff is what happens is when they get caught in a situation where they get knocked out, overwhelmed, or just pinned, is because they're not. What happens in the fight is different. Things that happen in the fight, like a lot of these traditional positions, a lot of things happen in the fight that really the commentator can't even explain because he doesn't even know what it is because they're not in the curriculum of like traditional fighting styles. So when a guy's arm comes out of nowhere and throws an artless technique, that's usually not in a striking, not being in a striking style. So it comes out of nowhere and he hits the guy and knocks him out, or the guy gets caught in some kind of control hold that's not a traditional lock or some kind of pin or something like that, and doesn't know what to do because the other guy's thinking outside the box. Well, the same thing with the striking. So if you want to perfect your striking, you got to think outside the box. Your striking should be applicable to both stand-up and on-the-ground situations. If your striking is just limited to, you know, upright scenarios, and then what happens is when you get into the ground fight, all you're thinking about is just grappling in here, that becomes a problem. So if we take the pads off, so I'll give you an example. So let's just say, let's go this way in here. Let's say that he's going to try to get me in a side control position, right? And he wants to try to get his, get the traditional, get his head under here, and get me wrapped up in here like this. All right. So go back to starting. Okay. So what happens is he's trying to get into that position, and then obviously I got my counters on how to get out of it, right? So go ahead and kind of put me into that position. So my things are to try to get in here, get into a thing like this, and sweep them over in here like that, right? So that might be an option to do. But what happens, when the time frame, what's happened? What if the weight distribution, and what if he does something ahead of that that precedes that hold and takes me out of my element. Now I can't do that sweep in here, right? So I risk the factor of he goes to stick his arm under there, right? And everybody wants to get these. Everybody wants to get these underhooks in here and try to bridge the guy over in here like this and take him over. What happens is my arms are trapped. So if he really locks down on me in here, I can't get out of this thing here. I can't strike him. I'm screwed. Okay, now what would be a better solution to that would be to, let's go down here more. Come over here more. A better solution to that would be to do something as he comes down to come to get me in here. There's a fucking here like this. Right? Fire from there. That would be much more efficient than letting the guy get down on me in here and then me trying to do some traditional sweep that's out of my jiu-jitsu manual, and then when it fails, I'm stuck in here pinned to the ground. Okay, that's just a silly thing to do because I'm following, this move-by-move oriented thinking. So remember, the goal is to end the fight. So when he came down on me like that, right, there was nowhere, he didn't have a chance to hold me down. Because I'm not going to let him do that. I don't want somebody grabbing my neck. Or what if I'm in my guard? He's in my guard, right? So instead of me trying to come down here and do the wrist control stuff in here like this and come up here and do this sweep in here like this, why am I doing all that stuff when I'm in a very, very vulnerable position as it is? I should be trying to get the guy off in here. I'm not going to let him come down and try to smother me. I'm going to try to keep him off in here with these punches in here like this. So, even if he tried to throw a punch himself, boom, I'm here like that. I'm coming out of this thing and I'm smash the crap out of him here and then boot him in the face or boot him away in here and get him off me. That's what should be really happening like that. But they're not training like that. They're training to accept the grappling, learn how to use more complex techniques to try to stop the grappling, like 2, 3, 4, 5 different setups just to get a hold or a submission. It doesn't make any sense to me. So practice, go ahead, practice what I was going through in the beginning, and practice on delivering those cross punches from different positions in here. So basically from standing up, you're going to be delivering it like this, which would be straight up. You're going to be delivering it downward, which would be like a decline bench press. You're going to be delivering it upward in here, which would be incline bench press, delivering at different angles. Practice those different techniques, all right? We'll see you next time. Take care. Don't forget to subscribe. If you feel the information was informative, please share it with your friends and training partners and give me some feedback and tell me what kind of more content you'd like to see. Take care.